Okay, good evening, everyone. I will call this Planning Commission to order. Get to my thing, call to order, and take a roll call. Can we let the record reflect that all 5 commissioners are present? And let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Okay, tonight we will have oral communications. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the Planning Commission on items that are not on the agenda tonight. I believe we have one speaker tonight.
We sure do, and that's
invite
Chris
him.
Schoeneck.
Okay.
Schoeneck, and I am again here on behalf of the Sage Canyon Apartments project. I was here with you 2 weeks ago requesting you to follow up with staff to ask if they can give us a date certain so that you can hear, deliberate, and vote on our project. Since the last 2 weeks, we still have not heard from staff any questions or concerns that they have that would help them finalize their staff report. We have continuously reached out to both planning staff members, senior staff members, and the city manager, and we have yet to hear back from any of them. Tonight, I'm here again to ask, would you please ask staff to finalize their staff report so that you can deliberate on the project? In the beginning of September, we heard the project, we heard about its merits, we heard about some of its concerns. It would be a good idea, and I feel it would be prudent if we voted on the project or heard it at least deliberated while it was still fresh in our heads. So with that, I'll end. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks for coming tonight. We're not here we can't discuss items that are not on the agenda, but we'll hope that we can come back with more clarity soon. Okay, item 5 on our agenda is changes to the agenda. Are there any changes proposed? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar. The consent calendar are items that are voted on as one motion. They're considered non-controversial or routine in nature. Tonight, there's one item on our consent calendar. It's the approval of the minutes from the October 2nd Planning Commission hearing. Can I have a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you.
I can second.
Thank you. Let's call the vote. Okay, that passes 5-0. With that, we'll move on to our regular agenda items, item 8A. Item 8A is the Manchester Avenue Heritage Tree nomination, case number H-3-008160, 2025. And I'm sorry, I don't have this in front of me. We have a staff report.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Hoger Salih. This is a request to nominate a Torrey pine tree for heritage tree status on a private property. The request before you is for one Torrey pine tree located on private property at 2279 Manchester Avenue. The tree is located near the north property line. The tree is identified above. For trees to be designated as a heritage tree, it must be considered a tree of community significance, that it meets one of the 4 criteria. It is one of the oldest and largest of its species. It has a unique form or species. It has a historical significance. It is an identifying landmark or significant outstanding feature of the neighborhood. Trees located on private property can be designated, but they require the approval of the property owner. The owner has nominated this tree and provided approval to the city. The Torrey pine tree was found to be an identifying significant outstanding feature of the neighborhood. It was demonstrated that the large crown of the tree can be seen from multiple views within the city. The tree stands at about 60 feet tall with a crown width of 100 feet. Here's a photo of the tree looking south. Here are photos of the tree looking north, east, and west. The project has been determined to be exempt from CEQA pursuant to Section 15061B3. The determination or the assignment of the status of the heritage tree is not an environmental impact. With that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the nomination of the Torrey Pine tree as a heritage tree based upon the findings contained in the attached draft resolution of approval. That concludes staff's presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, and the city arborist is here to answer any technical questions you might have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions of the staff? One? Yes?
The house to the north is 2259. Did the house at 2259, is you're processing this, have any comments to the application? If you go back, if you could, go back to the photo where you showed the 3 different views. One more back. That one. Okay, whoops. One forward. Okay, so the house with the tree belongs to the house to the right. The house to the left with the wooden trellis is 2259. Did they comment at all about the application?
Staff received no comments from the applicant, from the property owner.
Okay, and then since it's really on the north, it's really abuts the property line, and the canopy extends significantly above the neighboring house, the 2259, and then the canopy also extends to over the street. I didn't drive down the eastern street behind it, so from a more of a question to the arborist, do you see any concerns either from the roots affecting the neighbor or the roots affecting the street? There's no sidewalks here, so it goes directly to the street. And do you have any concerns on the canopy extending over the city road?
Just to address your first question too, or I guess clarify, the homeowner did show up to the UFAC meeting to give his opinion about that. So I don't think it was a specific city staff. You know, he didn't submit it to them, but he did show up in a public forum to voice his opinion.
Do you know if he was pro or?
He was against.
He was against?
Yes.
Okay.
And I do not believe the homeowner showed up to UFAC at that.
Okay.
Homeowner who submitted the nomination.
So, gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you repeat your
I'm
second-
sorry, the next question was either my concern would be given the location and its positioning against or along the northern property line, which is literally right up to 2259, the person who showed up who was concerned about it. So number one, I don't know what ficus tree roots I've had personal experience with, and they're pretty gnarly. I don't know how invasive or destructive a Torrey pine root system would be. And then number two would be the canopy, any concerns that you have extending over 2259 and also extending over the road, the city road.
So part of, to answer that question is that I didn't do a level 2 or 3 evaluation of the tree. And so for the purposes of a heritage tree nomination, it's not a very in-depth inspection process because it is a private tree. So we don't like tomography the tree, we don't do internal investigations. So I can't make a recommendation based on any of those factors because it's not a city asset. I'm not instructed to make that on a private tree for a specific homeowner. So that's not part of the heritage tree nomination. It's more of like a fact, like these are the measurements of the tree. This is, the status of the tree. Like you could nominate a tree that was close to death and that wouldn't change the nomination at all.
Process.
Yeah, so.
So in your evaluation of the tree, exclusive of it being nominated for a heritage tree, do you as a city arborist can approach the property owners and say, hey, I'm a little concerned about the overhang a tree over the road, the neighbor next door has a process associated with being concerned about either the root invasiveness or the concern that he would have over a branch over his property, right? That's just a normal process that's available. And when you went out and looked at the site, did you have any concerns over the city street? Well, you do have
Not
purview.
particularly,
Okay.
no concerns. Most of the time that we have concerns over the city street is more of a clearance issue, or if there's a impending dangerous branch, and none of those were found. There's
Observed.
no structural defect of the tree that, would have us come in as the city and prune that out. Most of the time when that's done on private trees, it's done in like a storm situation. The city doesn't advise on private trees unless it's something that's very dangerous. And that was not concluded in that inspection for this tree.
And then from a staff standpoint, then regardless of the heritage tree status, all the other rules apply in terms of if there is a danger, if it needs to be trimmed, all those rules still apply whether it has the designation or not, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Can you clarify that last point for me? All the normal rules, if this was found to be diseased or dangerous, they would be able to remove a limb or remove the tree, even though it's classified as a heritage tree?
It would have to reach out to us, the city arborist in that case.
Right, okay.
Yeah, if I may, the designation doesn't change the interaction that the city has with the property owner, especially in like a hazardous situation. If a tree is, let's just say any private tree in the city the city's concerned about its safety, the city would notify the property owner and ask them directly to deal with that if it wasn't, an imminent danger. So if we see something like a diseased tree or a palm, which is a big thing right now, that could affect public safety, then we either notify them, or if it's an extreme case, we come in and deal with that tree to mitigate that. And the heritage nomination doesn't necessarily change that in any manner. The heritage nomination in these cases is really, and there is a distinction between a private nomination, like some of the trees that get nominated like this one are private property trees versus some of the other trees are already city trees. And one of, the real distinction between those two is that a private tree right now, you don't need a permit to do anything to it. But this heritage designation means that you have to apply for a permit to do work on the tree.
Susan?
I'm curious, you did said that it wasn't unique, but it sure looks unique in terms of when I look at this map that was provided. I mean, there's row after row of hardcover, basically a few trees, but none of this size. So it does seem to fit the description of being unique and of unusual size. No?
Was that a question for me?
Yes, for staff.
I didn't know that who said it wasn't unique? I guess it doesn't fall in the unique category. Maybe, I would say of Torrey pines in the city, it is in line with about the same size and characteristic of most of the larger Torrey pines. The DBH is quite large. I didn't know if you had a chance to look at the PowerPoint that was presented to the UFAC. It gave a little bit more information on some of like the planting date. It's definitely one of the older Torrey pines that we can see, especially in Cardiff. It was planted in, I believe, between 1949 and 1950. So it is, and if you look at that image, there's not a lot of other trees even in Cardiff at that point, or houses. So it is a very old Torrey pine in terms of the city standard, but I don't think it's the biggest, which is, again, hard to say because we don't measure private Torrey pines as a city.
I have some follow-up questions. So a question about the neighbor. You said he came to the UFAC meeting and made statements against the designation. Can you tell us what the reasoning was?
Yeah, I wish he was here to state his own. My general understanding is that he was against it because they have some, they're already having something, some conflict between the neighbors that they're trying to resolve. And his main concern was like pine cones or any work that needs to be done on the tree. But again, the heritage tree nomination doesn't stop that process, essentially. He just has to apply for a permit to do it, and the permit is free.
Okay, did anybody else come to the UFAC meeting for or against the designation?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so I had a question regarding how you say it doesn't change anything, the designation. But I have a couple questions related to that. So it's my understanding, generally speaking, without a heritage tree nomination or designation, that you can trim a tree that's not on your property to the overhang of your property line legally.
I think that is true, except to the detriment of the tree. Essentially, if you are destroying the tree in that process, then that can be an unacceptable practice.
Right, it could be an unacceptable practice, but typically you may not know that until after it is done. I mean, just from general life experience on how neighbors trim trees that overhang into their yard, correct? I mean, it's a general practice that people trim to the tree line, to the property line.
Just to jump in here too real quick. So if it's the current tree, which is a private tree, if that was the case for the neighbor to do that, that could be acceptable, but as long as it's not to the detriment of the tree, like the arborist had noted. Mm-hmm. But once this is designated as a heritage tree, that neighbor would have to get the permit application to prune or clean up or crown the tree in conjunction with the city arborist.
Okay, and how long does that process take?
It could vary.
Can you give me a ballpark?
The process for that permit application, once they submit it, probably about 30 days for us to get the application in, get it processed, have the arborist schedule a meeting time with the property owner to get out there. So probably 30, 60 days just to go out there and see what's going on. If they need to do their inspection to see how sensitive the tree is or what's being pruned, that can add additional time to that application timeframe as well.
Okay, and what would that cost as far as staff time in order to process the application, have the arborist go out to the residents, make those determinations?
I think the application at the moment is currently no fee for us to be able to permit that application through staff. As far as conducting how much cost that is to staff, we can try and break that down to a cost breakdown on an hourly basis for staff time to conduct that. We can get that information to you at a later date if that's sufficient.
How many staff members would that involve?
Probably just one.
Well, you'd have the
Well,
arborist.
it would be the city staff, the planner with the application, and the city arborist.
And then would the person who would do the trimming, would they have to be vetted through the arborist as well?
Correct.
And then who would pay for that trimming? Would it be the homeowner?
It would most likely land on the homeowner's expense.
Which homeowner? The homeowner who wants the tree trimmed or the private property heritage tree owner?
It would, excuse me, it would most likely land on the person who wants to trim the tree on their end of the property. So if it's hanging over to the neighbor's property line, it would be it would be their responsibility to submit the application with the arborist and pay for the services to trim that tree.
Okay. And would the owner of the heritage tree be able to object to the trimming of the tree?
Not necessarily. They would still have to submit the application. If there's any dispute between the property owners, we do have a mediation process and application for that too on the city's website that they would both have to apply to get through that process if that's what it ended up becoming.
Okay, so a mediation process, does that involve a lawyer?
Correct.
And how long does that mediation process usually take?
That it can be any timeline based on the attorneys that they hire, based on the mediation. There is really no timeline for that. So depending on how quickly they come to an agreement is really up to the two parties and their respective mediators.
Okay, so that each party could hire an attorney, then there'd also be the city mediator?
Yeah, so if they wanted to apply with the property owners, it would just be the mediation program through our code enforcement department.
Okay, but they could also hire attorneys as well? I
If
think
they
you
wanted to
just
do
stated
it
that.
privately on their own, they have the right to do so.
Okay. And so you said that there are kind of different set of rules if they're deemed some kind of an emergency, like let's say there's a branch that's falling or appears to be falling, or a tree appears diseased, or some other thing that could happen to a tree that would cause someone to have concern for safety of life and property underneath the tree. Right? Is that correct? That there's a special process? Like an emergency
So
process?
if it's still, if the tree is diseased or, you know, it's about to fall over, collapse, branches about to break down, if it's a heritage tree, the city arborist will still go out there, see what's going on, make their assessment. If they want to, they would still apply with the application. If it's not a heritage tree, then they wouldn't have to go through that application process.
Okay, then,
We would still send the arborist to see what's going on and see if what the safety level is of that tree.
okay. But let's say it's not a heritage tree and the homeowner next door, where much of the tree hangs over, sees that there is a branch that appears to be falling onto their property. If it's not a heritage tree, they could go and trim it, have somebody come trim it, as long as it's not to the detriment of the tree,
Correct.
without going to the city and having the arborist come out.
Correct.
Maybe while Chris is reviewing her notes, I'll have a question. Has the tree been surveyed, it is completely on one property, or does it straddle a property line? Is a survey even, I don't see it as part of an application. Is it established that this tree is solely on one property?
The crown, it does overlap to the other property, but the tree itself,
The trunk or
Yeah.
the,
is on 2279 Manchester Avenue.
is it reasonable to expect that a significant number of roots are probably crossing the property line to the north?
Yeah, roots in the urban landscape are a little bit harder to judge and interact. Generally, the best way to think about it is that they want to be where all the nutrients are. You know, it's like they don't necessarily want to be under a house or like underneath the road. I mean, it happens and they are there, but you know, the benefit to the tree would be have the roots in a yard. So a lot of times when we see with private trees and they have space to grow and access to nutrients and water, is that majority of the roots are going to be in yards and stuff, where they can get the things that they need. And then otherwise, you know, that would be the expectation. And that, you know, they do have a yard on the other side. So you know, it's a safe bet to say that the root zone for a tree, you know, the drip line is kind of considered the critical root zone. And then outside of that, you know, not species based at this level would be double, you know, is where you would find like the fine tip roots that are going to interact with any tree. So yes, it's safe to say that there's roots in both properties.
Okay, thank you. Susan, did you have any follow-up questions? Okay, Chris, were you?
I did have a follow-up question based on that. I know you said that there's some yard, and so you might expect roots to grow that way. But just looking at the pictures and how close this tree is to the neighboring property, also to the road, I mean, you can't say with real certainty, can you, that the roots won't, I mean, we know they grow under the other house, I mean, and probably under the road. You don't know with complete certainty that the roots aren't going to continue to grow in the direction of the other home or the direction of the street, because there are other factors that might exist too.
Yeah, no, there's no way to know where all the roots of a tree are until it's
Okay.
dead and you did it.
Right, I mean, 'cause
Archaeological
I
dig.
talked about this on our last heritage tree nomination, because on my street on Eolis, we have several large trees on both sides of the road at the corner of Glaucus and Eolis, and the road is completely destroyed by the roots of those trees. you say you haven't seen that here on this street yet, is that correct?
Not yet. I'd have to look into, past work orders to see if specific trees have, there's been any actual construction from the city side in terms of root damage. But yeah, you expected there's some roots under almost every structure, but there's no definitive answer on that until you do.
Until it happens, or until you do a further survey?
Again, I think the point of the designation is, how does the heritage tree nomination affect that? Those roots are going to be there if it's a heritage tree nomination or not. So really, I think the focus is, how does that designation that you guys are voting on affect that? And from a city perspective, it, especially in the roadway, is a very similar process. Again, they would just be required to get a permit if they were going to do the road work on their own or any work associated with that tree.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for those answers. I don't see the applicant here, so there is no further presentation of that. With that, I'll close the public hearing portion and open it up to commissioner deliberation. Susan, would you like to start?
I'll lead off. For me, different trees have different characteristics. This particular tree is a very valuable tree because of its age and also because of its species being very rare. It's the most rare type of tree of its genus and species. So the roots of this tree tend to grow down rather than out. The last designation we looked at was a ficus, completely different, tends to be spreading and plumber's friend and all those horrible things. This one is a different species, and I'm definitely in favor of granting it heritage status.
Thanks. Brent?
Yeah, I went by the location. I looked at the tree. It is remarkable. It sits up off the road a little bit, so it gives it a little more presence. Yeah, thank you. I fall pretty hard on the fence on this one. I can be pretty convinced on either way. I'm leaning a little more towards no. I was quite disappointed that the applicant wasn't present at it sounds like any of the meetings regarding this application or request. And it sounds like there's a bit of a dispute with the neighbor and some concerns about past issues with the tree and that particular location. And although, again, it is a remarkable tree, I certainly respect its size in the community. I didn't hear a lot from the community about wanting this, and I'm not entirely sure the need for it. It certainly sounds like if there is a need for any care that is urgent, it's at the expense of the city. Because they're gonna have to go out, the staff is gonna have to go out and do all these evaluations and then process all of these applications and requests, which it sounds a bit of a burden for, I'm not sure what positive gain. So anyway, I think that's where I sit.
Okay.
I revisited the staff report, and on page 37, there's a couple of comments from the deliberation from the UFAC. And in that, the neighbor of 2259 showed up and said that tree branches have fallen on his property before, and there's been some history with the adjacent property owner who apparently is a non-resident or is a part-time resident. That's neither here nor there, but that was a comment that he made. The UFAC committee voted 5-1 in favor, with one absent and one nay. So it's a beautiful tree. I went over there, and in the few minutes that I sat there and looked at the tree, neighbors walking their dogs, as I was looking up, said, what's up with the tree? I'm like, I'm just looking at the tree because, I explained, because of the heritage application. And each of them said, I love this tree. It's a great tree. I see this tree, and to Susan's point, it's the only Torii on the street. A lot of palm trees and, other trees. So it is unique in that it's the only Torii pine, if that's a definition of unique, on the street. It's unique to the street. It is a great species and clearly an endangered species. My concern is the size of the tree, its location on a small lot, and I would say half of the crown, or I'm not sure the right word, overhangs the neighbor's property, or a third of it, and then a third of it's over the street, and a third of it is on the applicant's side. My concern would be the time factor of something that has to be done, and because of the designation, the person whose branch is falling on is going to have to go through a bunch of things and might not have enough time to go through the process to get the tree trimmed before the branch falls on him. And so while it qualifies, and UFAC said yes, and it qualifies as a beautiful, unique tree, and I think it is. I think it's fabulous. I do concern myself with the location of the tree on the property line and the potential imposition on the neighbor in order to solve a problem. And if he has to wait 30 days to get various permits to do it, my concern is that might put him at risk, and anybody else in the area. So I love the tree. It's a beautiful tree. It's unique. It qualifies as a heritage tree. My concern might be with the rules associated with the heritage tree and a process of trying to trim it. And maybe in this particular case, the location of the tree in the northwest corner of the property, right on the property line, lends itself to not being the best designation. It qualifies, it's great, but it doesn't lend itself to the imposition of the designation on the neighboring properties.
Chris?
Yes, thank you. I'm kind of right along there with Bob, and I do agree it's a remarkable tree, and it will remain a remarkable tree whether or not it has the heritage tree definition. And there isn't any evidence before us that anyone wants to cut it down or anything like that. So it's going to remain this beautiful tree, this landmark in the neighborhood, whether it's a heritage tree or not. And for all the reasons Bob stated, and in addition, I feel like it's a very big burden to place on the neighbor. The designation is a big burden on the neighbor for time and potentially money if it has to go to mediation and litigation if they hire attorneys in order to have branches trimmed that hang over into their yard that they see as a problem. I also have an issue with the homeowner not being here tonight, not being at UFAC, and the only person who has come to any of the meetings was the neighbor who has already expressed that he has real concerns about the tree and the branches that overhang his property. So for all of those reasons, I'm a no.
Okay. And I fall very much in line with you and Bob and some of the hesitations that Brent has even expressed. And just to add further to that, I worry that we're stepping into a weaponization of this heritage tree, that it sounds like there may be a dispute between two neighbors, and one is going to do this. I'm not sure why, because they can keep the tree. I mean, as you say, no matter what we decide tonight, that tree doesn't have to come down unless that owner decides to take it down. I'm concerned that no one has shown up to provide extra color or understanding of why, why it is. And I guess I would default to, if the only person who's ever shown up to a public hearing has been opposed to it, I would take that with some weight. The location on the property, I think, is problematic to me. I feel like if this were a joint application by two neighbors saying this tree is beautiful and we should protect this, I get it. But this seems like a tree, so it might be single ownership, but it has a very big impact on another person, another property owner. I had a similar tree next to me, and I worried every night about a limb coming on to my roof. I have a friend who's experienced that. And I've been told that, the Torrey Pines was never meant to get those large. It's got irrigation and the reasons why they grow so big now, but in a natural state, it maybe wouldn't achieve that same height in whatever. I'm not an arborist to know that. I tend to fall in the kind of opposed to the heritage designation on this tonight. All right. Having expressed those opinions, I see some consensus, I believe, around a denial, but if there's further discussion, Susan, I'm open to it, or I'm open to a motion.
Well, just to defend the application, maybe there are other reasons why this person didn't show up that we don't know about.
I absolutely agree.
We don't know
I agree.
why. Could be medical or
Yeah.
other reasons. So I don't hold that against the applicant, but I see some validity in terms of being concerned that branches can fall and branches can damage. On the other hand, it's the only tree like it in that area, and I would love to see it protected. And saying that the owner will protect it, I'm not really sure when a tree has heritage designation, does that go with the sale of the property?
Mm-hmm.
Then let's say that this owner is doing that because perhaps they're frail or elderly, I don't know. Or maybe they have some disability and they're thinking that this property will pass out of their hands. So in the interest of the tree, which can't speak for itself,
Nice quote.
I would tend to err on the side of protecting it further with the designation.
Okay. I think there would be other ways if an owner wanted to pass on the property. They could write an easement or I don't know the legal term, but they could say, I'll sell this property, but on the stipulation this tree is not removed. And they could do it privately. I do think it's a bit of a burden on the city to get in the middle of neighbor disputes or having to go assess the tree and to determine whether it could be trimmed or not trimmed and things like that. So,
I think it's a good point, Chair. And I remember when the first ones that kind of came our way were on Melba, and I believe that they were in the city right away, but they didn't encroach upon neighbors. It was an issue with the city right of way, and I was more comfortable in that scenario versus a private scenario. And that those trees, I agree. The last time I denied, I agree with Susan that one of the reasons why I denied was that it was the species of the tree, the ficus, and the location. And this one just, again, is just slightly outside of that, and that's probably why. The Melba trees were a grove, and they were unique, and I don't think there was any imposition on another private party. And so I was more comfortable at the time voting yes for that designation. This one, what we spoke about earlier, it just doesn't fit that same criteria.
okay.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to deny the request that the Torrey Pine be granted heritage tree status.
I second the motion.
Okay. Seeing a motion and a second, I'll call the vote. Just to be absolutely clear, to vote yes on this motion is to deny the heritage application. My screen kind of went, okay. All right, that motion passes 4-1.
Can I just say thank you to the arborist and for staff for being here to provide us the additional information. The ficus one we did a couple weeks ago was a little harder because I think the arborist wasn't here for that one, so we were left with some unanswered questions, so I really appreciate you guys being here.
Okay, I'll give a second for the room to clear. Oh, it's gone. Okay. The next item is item 8B, the Planning Commission report and work plan. This is more an informational item. It's not a project number or anything, an application for anything. And there doesn't need to be a vote at the end of this, but we're going to get a presentation from Megan Openshaw about where we stand with the work plan.
Thank you, Chair. I unfortunately was logged out, and now I am logging back in because I do have a PowerPoint. So if you'll give me a moment while we get set up, I'll have some information ready shortly. The PC is configuring itself. It's saying that this might take a few minutes.
Okay.
But it says almost there now, so we're getting there.
Maybe Bob could entertain us with some puppet shows or something. Shadow puppets. Yeah.
Okay, give me a moment.
You know, you can serenade us with a karaoke song.
You don't want that.
Okay. There we go. All right. Well, good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Okay. My name is Megan Openshaw, Assistant Director at the Development Services Department, and tonight I'll be providing a presentation on your annual report and work plan as soon as the PowerPoint. Okay, give me a moment, please. Okay, let's see if this works now. There. Okay, so to start with a little bit of brief background. So consistent with the municipal code as well as the Planning Commission bylaws, the commission is required to prepare an annual report as well as a work plan for council consideration. And on June 5th, the commission adopted your 2024 annual report as well as the draft 25-26 work plan under resolution number PC-2025-19. And on June 18th, Chair Dalton of the commission presented the report as well as the draft work plan to the City Council, and they recommended approval with amendments with a vote of 4-1. The recommended amendments included the following items, which were remove goals A1 and A7, move items B1, 2, and 3 to the current goals, move item A4 to the long-term goals, update goal A3 to include slope lots, and to direct the commission to prioritize goals to align with the City Council objectives, including who will lead, timelines, as well as SMART goals, And to add Goal A9, to add general plan review and make recommendations to identify objective requirements to protect our city character for council review. Of note, the items are listed as A, B, and have associated numbers. That's to correlate to the current goals, as time permit goals, as well as the long-term goals. And to go over some of the revisions that came up from that recommendation, first, separate from that a little bit, were some like cleanup formatting changes. The document had portions that were in landscaped, which were adjusted to portrait, and the table of contents had some minor adjustments to reflect the contents of the document itself. In terms of the amendments that were made consistent with council recommendations, this is the current goals. On the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see that there is listing what the original policies were, and then on the right side of that table on the screen includes what the revised language includes. So the areas or the items that are strike-through and in red, those have been removed from the document. That's inclusive of the outdoor dining ordinance, as well as the Leucadia Northwest circulation/crossings. And then the strike-through item in green has been moved to a different section of the document, and that is increase affordable housing. On the right-hand side, you'll see one of the items listed in blue. That's general plan review and objective design standards recommendations. That's a new item that was added to the plan based off of council's recommendations. And then the three items listed in green that include preservation of open space, citizen participation program meetings, as well as review dark skies ordinance. Those were three goals that were moved from a different section into your current goal section. Now moving into as time permits, those three green goals were previously in this section. As you can see on the left-hand side, they were struck through, and now at this time, your work plan does not include any items or goals in the as time permits section as shown on the right-hand side. Looking at your long-term goals, the increased affordable housing, which was previously in the current goals section, was moved into the long-term goals section and is shown on the right-hand side in green. In terms of what progress and what the status is of some of the current goals listed, here is a table that outlines what the progress is. Some of these items are existing city projects that staff is working on. Those include the native plant ordinance, as well as the AB 2011/SB6 item, as well as the resource management plan update. With those three items that are currently in process, they have existing timelines and staff members that are already working on those, as well as goals that are incrementally in place. The next task associated with the first item is that there will be a joint meeting between the Urban Forest Advisory Committee as well as the Environmental Commission. That will be on November 4th. And then after that meeting, the intent would be to come to the Planning Commission for your review of that. With the Assembly Bill 2011 SB6 item, there is going to be a joint workshop where the planning commissioners as well as the city council will be reviewing this item, and a presentation will be provided by staff, and that will be on October 29th. And then with the resource management plan update, there's ongoing work related to drafting that document in progress now, as well as the development of a community engagement plan. So more to come on that item. And the other items that are listed on this have not been started and do not currently have a budget allocated for them. So with that, I would like to open it up for discussion and any questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Megan. Appreciate that. Any discussion on the work plan?
My captions just dropped out. I don't know why.
Okay.
Do we have a little help from IT to restore captions?
Just to add a little color while, oh, I'll wait.
So if I'm on mic, I should be seeing captions, but I'm not. That looks better. Maybe.
Testing, 1,
Did
2,
they
3.
pause it?
Yeah, it looks like it's like behind or lagging. Let me check the computer.
Okay. Maybe something they did. Are you still because it dropped out of
You can do that as long as I can access the X drive, although I don't know how needed the PowerPoint is.
Oh, this is on the X drive?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's all. You need to switch the user. Yeah. Probably just lock it, and then we can switch user from the main screen. I show you what the password is. And then switch user.
Do you want us to test it?
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we were just, there's an opportunity to discuss the work plan if anybody wants to ask questions about it. I was going to give a little color that I presented it to the city council. They discussed it for about 90 minutes, so at great length. And they made several adjustments of what they felt was going to more align with their priorities. And so that became the approved work plan for the planning commission. So tonight, we're not really looking for a vote. We don't really have an opportunity to add things to it because it hasn't been approved by the city council. And so I think, you know, the discussion maybe falls along the lines if there's questions about what you're seeing on it, what it means or something, but a lot of it, or most of it, we've already had on our plan. They've struck some stuff and just rearranged the rest. Are there any
I have
questions?
some comments.
Okay, please, Susan.
Well, my first one is that on the report for last year, Commissioner Prendergast and I did a great deal of work on the affordable housing work plan, and it's not noted. Now, it might be because of some reason or other, but I think we should, even if it wasn't heard yet by council, our vote to approve it was in the last year, so
Okay. To
shouldn't it
record.
be noted?
Well, I think the work plan is looking forward to what we're planning to work on in the next cycle. Your
But that was also included a report of what we did
okay.
and accomplished.
Uh-huh.
And we put a lot of hours on that.
I know.
So I thought it should be noted.
Okay.
But anyway, aside from that, I'm glad to see that council has prioritized some items. And myself, personally, I would like to work on the Cardiff Townhome lot variance requests. I would like to work on that item. I think that's a pretty easy one compared to some of the others. I would also like to work on Assembly Bill 2011 and Senate Bill 6. So those two items, I volunteer.
Just to be clear, we're having a joint session with the city council on Assembly Bill 2011 and SB 6, right? And that is coming up, I believe, at the end of October. And that session is intended to educate everybody about those bills. What beyond that do you want, what are you trying to take on here?
Since that bill was passed in 2023 and it went into effect about 2 years ago, I would say that it's appropriate to incorporate criteria for it. But I also think my recommendations would be that we take a look at, let me see, I have a couple notes about it. Yes. Okay. That one of the things I noticed right away when it was originally being put through, 2011 requires affordable housing, but SB 6 does not. It's completely different in how they are structured. So since we need the very low affordable housing right now, that's where we're deficient in our numbers. We're probably trying to make sure that we get those. I think that what we should do, increase the requirement, the percentage for the low income affordability percentage
Okay.
to be at least 33% or so.
Okay.
And the
Su-
reason I say that
Susan?
is that I'm aware of the Nexus study that was done initially.
Okay, let me,
Back in
let me pause you here, though. Tonight, we're not here to discuss or deliberate the specifics of any of these. We are to hear what the work plan is, and if we create a subcommittee or we create an actionable item, then you would come back with the data that you're wanting to share along those lines. But I don't think our agenda tonight is not to dive deeply into
Well, I think
these
that
topics.
since we have a joint meeting coming up, it's pretty appropriate, and especially since this was approved 2 years ago by the state.
Yeah.
We should have done this last year,
Can I
but
say
we
something?
didn't.
Can I say something? So the other thing is, Susan, that the city staff is working with a consultant already on this issue as well, and that's probably what they're going to present to us at the meeting that's only 2 weeks from today, less than 2 weeks from today. So maybe it's something to think about if you want to do a subcommittee after we have that meeting, that joint meeting, and we hear what the consultant, along with city staff, has to say about their progress so far.
Well, one thing of our, in my tenure, in my first 3-year term that we talked about was having up to a 50% affordability component in our housing element, which didn't happen. At that time, the city council blew that down. But I think that the Nexus study that was done around 2014 demonstrated a need in our city for about 30 to 33%, I think it was. Anyway, so for some reason, things like that, studies, actual studies that were paid for by the city were ignored. And when I brought that up previously, it's like I didn't say anything. And I don't understand. We now have another study being done. I'm not sure what the results will be of this one. It will depend on their methodology. Are they going to survey? Are they going to use census data? What, how they're going to go about that. But anyway, I think that we should be having some action to get more low-income housing. And I think that anything we can do to increase that percentage. And also, I noticed one of the elements of the planning that is being done is 8-foot wide sidewalks. So my recommendation, considering our drainage problems, is that they be permeable paving wherever possible. All of it, in my opinion, should be permeable paving or furnishings or plants and things. I hate to think that we would have 8-foot wide paving sidewalks down Coast Highway.
Susan, what item are you on when you're referring to 8-foot sidewalks? Is
I'm
it
still talking about the
okay.
AB.
Okay, but I agree with Chris. We are all collectively going to get an education in about 2 weeks' time from the city with a joint meeting with the city council.
Okay.
I think it's premature before we've had that meeting for us to start digging into the specifics of what we want to see come out of that.
One other thing I really like about the fact that the council went through, I think that we should focus as a commission on these first 6 items that they have split out as their priorities, because this is something that they want.
Okay. The first 3 items are underway, and they have a budget and there's staff working on those 3 items. So that's a good thing, right? Those are underway. The remaining 3 items don't have any staff time or budget
So I
assigned
have a
to them.
question about the resource management element update. I did see that we don't actually have a resource management element. We do not have that in Encinitas. Instead, we have aspects of resource management that are integrated into other elements, such as our safety or mobility, things like that. So I'm wondering, and this would be a good question for council, if they're listening, should we have a resource management element, an actual resource management element, and then just reference it in these other places?
Just a moment of brief
Or
clarification.
is the intent
There,
to keep what we have, which is having it split into all these other areas?
Yeah, we do have an adopted resource management element in our general plan, and that's being updated currently specifically to address compliance with 2 bills that were passed.
We have a separate,
It's an element of our general plan.
because when I looked on our website, I didn't see it. Resource management element. Perhaps you can email that to
Yeah.
us so we have it.
Yes, happy to share that with you.
Okay. Okay, those are my comments.
Okay. Bob? Well,
thank you for bringing us up to speed, Chair Dalton, for bringing us up to speed what's had occurred in the past. I was just a little confused on what to do with the particular outline. I didn't know what direction this was going to take. I certainly would welcome any guidance on what's expected of us with these items. I would support, it sounds like there's some that are being actively worked on, and that we just wait for that information to come in before we decide to take any further action on those particular ones, particularly the Assembly Bill and Senate Bill discussion that's coming up, and it sounds like the native plant ordinance is being worked over and being revised. I was a little confused, like on the twin homes lot variance request. It seems like a clear one we can bring in front of us, make a clear recommendation on what to do with that language and knock it off this list. But I also felt like, isn't that a code ordinance? So is it already being worked on by another?
I think that's the challenge of this work plan, if I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, it
but
is challenging.
The challenge of this work plan is that we, to a great extent, are limited to the items that are brought to us that have been prepared by the staff.
Right.
And we don't, as a commission, don't unilaterally or as a commission get to decide what budget the staff will have. You know, this is a city council item, right?
Yeah, well, certainly I
Right.
would be looking for some information regarding process here for these particular items. What is the expected process? If we're going to take up something like the twin homes, are we requesting information be brought to us and then we're revising that information? Are we gathering the information and providing it to them? And then it comes back to us. I would definitely look for some guidance here. I would definitely need some direction on making any decisions. I mean, I can go through this entire thing and give you all my comments as well about every individual one, but I'm not sure that's helpful.
Yeah.
And I think Megan can probably give us some insight as to the process that would help you, Brent.
Yes, I believe that the intent of the work plan is for the Planning Commission to help provide guidance on what are the pertinent topics that would help facilitate some of the work that goes on within the city. It's not necessarily to have you write the ordinance yourself. It's more so to guide and direct staff to ensure that we're in alignment with council goals.
I'm very confused then. Why does it say modify the municipal code to allow for zero? I don't get that. Like it looks to me as if we're supposed to then modify the municipal code as a work plan.
But we do our work kind of through the efforts of the staff, right? So
shouldn't we just not select something on this list, take it on that we can accomplish, request what we need to request, and then move step forward?
It's changed
or not?
over time. Before I served as a commissioner,
Okay.
the previous planning commission would form committees, subcommittees, and work on different aspects of their work plan. But in some cases, on this particular work plan, we're going to need staff to provide us data. We can't just come up with something out of thin air. So, for example, on the twin homes, it would be helpful to know how many variances were granted for zero lot line setback on the interior lot line. And if we found out all of them, then maybe we need to recommend. So we don't actually create the ordinance or change the code. We recommend that they would change it.
Thank you for the clarification. In my meeting with the mayor directly, I mean, specifically the item regarding the omnibus code cleanup, I mean, it was his preference that we come up with a list of particular items and start addressing them.
Yeah. And related to that, two of those items are the variance in Cardiff and the CPP
Certainly.
process, right? So, if there are other items that we routinely see here and we say, hey, we're always having to, hear or decide on something like the front yard setbacks variance on Neptune, we could add that to an omnibus
I think one of the missing
thing.
elements that we have in our Encinitas Municipal Code is something about the color selection
I'm still
I mean,
confused. Are we or
we don't
are we
have
not getting
anything
clarification? Are we?
that restricts what color can be used.
Okay.
If somebody decided, developer decided to make all their buildings black, we have nothing that says they can't. And I think we should have something about colors, that there should be something. I'm not saying what, but I remember when the Greek Orthodox project came up, and it's 100% affordable, it's highly desirable, it's a great project, and they wanted it to be all white. And the commission at that time was like, all white, And then everyone said, oh, well, it's a beautiful building and blah, blah. And so everybody was okay with it. But the fact that there was nothing we could say if somebody decides to make their project purple, all purple,
I think Brent still has some unanswered questions related to the process that maybe staff can help him with. But it's my understanding that if there's no budget that's been provided for us to ask staff to help us with this, then there's no budget for them to help us with this, if that makes sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if they haven't been given the budget to work on one of these items, I don't know how we can ask them to help us. Because the allocation of funds without
I emailed
Going to
that
City
exact
Council.
question to Megan, and her answer was that we should email them questions.
Okay.
Yes, so I received a question related to identifying tasks and responded that we should bring them up essentially through the, and when you can ask to place items on the agenda moving forward, and we can parse out these tasks essentially versus looking at them holistically. But Commissioner Whitaker, I think your question specifically was essentially what role does the Planning Commission have in implementing the work plan? I just want to make sure I understand the question so I can hopefully provide guidance on that.
I think, yes, essentially the question is, what is the process that we need to implement to work on items on the work plan? I think it's the desire of some of the commissioners to work on some of the items on the work plan, and I would like to know what that process should be.
Okay. I think the process as I see it is if there is a consensus around the items, the prioritizing, or people can express interest in what topics they're interested. If there is a subcommittee that could be made, right, like we did for the affordable report that Bob and Susan did, then those commissioners can take that work on. But that work is on the commissioners, right? I mean, the city staff is not given a budget to say collate how many variances have been granted in Cardiff in the last 10 years. So I think we have to find a topic that truly is something that someone wants to do a lot of the heavy lifting. It will fall to the commission's time. I do think this work plan had a value in that it did communicate, say, our priorities to the staff of what we would like them like to see come back to us as far as some of this stuff. There are items on there like the omnibus code cleanup that maybe could take another discussion, like we put that on an agenda for a meeting and say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what do you want to see in the code cleanup? And then that would go away, that would go to staff, and if they were given the budget to work on that, they would come back with, a code cleanup that we would then vote, we've done that part of it before. But I don't think any of us were appointed to the commission because we are code writers, senior planners and urbanists and forestry, any one of these specialties that we have identified as areas of concern.
I'm also willing to work on code cleanup. Codes are something I'm pretty strong on, but I'm willing to work on it.
So in the staff report, Megan, it looks different than your presentation. There's more columns in your presentation. If you could bring up your
Yeah.
presentation.
This
So-
specific slide?
Yeah, so for instance, in the staff report that you gave us, it titled the 2025-2026 work prams detail.
Yes, I made this separate from the actual plan to give you some additional information.
Yeah, no, this one's great. In fact,
Okay.
because I starred a couple of things that interest me and potentially go for a subcommittee. And on the work plan, it doesn't say that, for instance, the native plant ordinance is in progress, nor does it state the AB 2011. It says staff time and Sandag grant funding. So that column is under budget. Is it too late to add, as of to find out like one more column, like things are in progress, or we just have to have what she presented tonight to know that various items, native plant, AB 2011, resource management plan, are already statused, and I think there was a couple more. There were a total of 9. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
If I hear your question correctly, Bob, I think
Yeah.
what we can do, like, this is capturing a moment.
Yeah, this was the format that
That
they gave
will
us.
be outdated almost immediately because maybe they take on another thing or another
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
So we could request next month or next quarter to say, Megan, could you give us an update of how we're doing on this work plan?
That would be
I
great.
think it's a great
And this
idea.
is the
As
the
of-
royal we, right? Because
Right.
it will be largely, what has her staff been doing to implement some of this stuff?
Right.
But we could get updates at appropriate intervals. It wouldn't necessarily be changing the work plan. It would just be
Agreed.
like,
Yeah,
I
I think that I had noted a couple of items, like Susan had noted, that I would volunteer to create a subcommittee. And I don't know if tonight's the right night, or do that have to be an agenda item that would be requested for the next
No, let's
planning
do it.
commission
Let's-
hearing? So if
let's
there's
do it tonight. If there's a desire,
Couple people
and a
to work on
consensus
something,
around something,
right?
let's,
assign a task.
assign the task.
We
It said on our information that we would be assigning.
Okay.
We
So
can, we can
I
definitely take
assumed
interest
that we were
on-
going to assign.
We could take interest on assignments tonight.
Okay.
I'm interested in this, you're interested in
Right.
that, et cetera, et cetera. But for actual creation of subcommittees, that would be a separate agenda
Okay,
item that we
that-
would hold down the road.
Perfect. And can there be a subcommittee of 1, or does there have to be a subcommittee of 2? Steve says.
Well, I was going to say, I think it would be best for 2.
Sure, I'm just thinking if no one else wanted to work on dark skies, for instance, and it was a passion of mine, but it didn't achieve a 2-person subcommittee, is there some sort of municipal code or
Well, it's a
code
maximum
requirement?
of 2, no matter what,
It is a maximum. of
because we
2.
can't have quorum.
You can have just one person.
Okay,
Like
that-
staff's
that-
working on the XYZ ordinance, and the
Yeah.
only one commissioner's interested in XYZ.
Perfect, okay.
Fine.
That was just I don't know if there's a legal question, but I was just curious on how
Yeah.
the subcommittee works, so.
I guess in my mind, a subcommittee of 1 also says that maybe there wasn't much consensus around that item.
True, but it is an item that the city council has asked us to align our interests with them. So I'm not looking at something that's not I'm just trying to pick the ball up and run with something that the city council also agrees to. This happens to be number 9, but nonetheless, I was just.
Sure,
Now
thank
I know.
you.
Thank you.
I
So-
don't think that they're
I
in order.
completely agree.
I don't know that they're in order of importance. Is that correct?
No, yeah, they're not in any particular order in terms of importance.
But they did, through an hour and a half discussion with the chairman last June, were very vocal, and there was clearly one of the council members, and I know which one, voted no against the work plan because something had been moved down to line item 3, ABC, versus keeping it on the priority, and that was the affordable housing question. So, and they felt strong enough to vote against the work plan. So, end of the day, what's on there are the 9. Happy with the 9. Just want to make sure that the 9 gets the attention that it deserves. And so, if you're taking interest of things, given one native plant ordinance and assembly bill are already in progress, I would happy to work on the preservation of open space and review of the dark skies ordinance requirements. And I'm open to others if people need help.
As long as we don't have a committee of three. As
Right.
long as we don't have three.
Okay. I've heard from Susan, I've made notes, well, Susan, just to confirm the notes I'm making, you expressed interest in the Cardiff Twin Home variance cleanup and the AB 2011 and SB 6 topics.
And I'm willing to help with the omnibus code cleanup.
And the code cleanup, I have that too. Okay.
But again, these are just, I'm willing to do it. I'm available to do it. I will put the time in and the effort. But whether it's actually a sign that we should, determine.
Okay. It sounds like we're going to have to come back to a future agenda item to actually form any sort of committee. And as it relates to SB 6, I think it would be prudent for us to just wait until after our joint session with the council so that the five of us are collectively educated about where SB 6 and AB 2011 stand. So we all have a better understanding of it. And then we could create work plans or form subcommittees after that.
It looks like no one volunteered for resource management element update, and no one volunteered for general plan review, objective design standards. And I think they already hired someone for citizen participation program manager. Is that correct?
We have a management analyst that does manage the CPP process and works with developers on ensuring that they meet that requirement. But we would separately work with different staff to make any modifications requiring the timing related to those.
So I'm not sure if you have a manager. I think that was a recent hire. Maybe that's not on our list anymore. I'm not sure.
No, that's basically an admin staff within the department manages the CPP process. We don't have a specific staff member hired related to citizen participation program.
Okay. So I have a procedural, I'm sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Was one of yours, Bob, preservation of open space?
It was.
Okay, I will express an interest in working with Bob on that.
If, say, we get our work done and there's 2 items that haven't been finished and it's March 15th and we have a planning commission, can we form a committee at that time to address, it doesn't all have to be done now, can we bring something up in the future, say, the general plan review was never really addressed, I'd like to form a subcommittee, so it's not dead.
This
It's
is
just-
not the end of the, you
Okay,
can
it's
bring
not
it
the
up
end.
next
Anytime.
January, next February,
Perfect.
anytime you feel.
Okay, I just
It's
wasn't
appropriate.
sure how that worked. Thank you.
Christmas?
Well, and I'll be terming out. In February will be my last meeting, I guess. So whatever I work on, I'll just turn over to whoever comes in, I guess, or to the rest of you.
Okay. Brent, you mentioned the omnibus code cleanup, at least through a conversation with the mayor. Were you also expressing an interest to work on that, or were you just saying, as a for instance, he mentioned this to me?
I was mentioning it just as a, for instance.
Okay.
But it was because I felt like I don't understand the process as well as I need to, I think. And so it seems that there's more of a process of subcommittees, and even for some items that I don't understand why there is a subcommittee. If it's the Twin Homes update in Cardiff, they bring the language to us, we review the language, and we give it a recommendations. I don't understand something. We want the code changed.
I think that.
And that was what came to us, and that's what we gave to them.
Yeah.
was let's change the code. And so I'm confused about like that particular aspect of certain items. And then there's the other items which I'm already a committee on because I'm going to a meeting where we're going to be talking about the assembly bill. And so I'm going to review those items in preparation.
Yeah.
And if I have things to contribute at that time, I would. So, and beyond that, we would then discuss it. So there are some places where I'm just kind of, I think, again, I don't
I think
understand
there's
the process.
confusion around it all over, and I think one of the problems is that not every item on this is, there is not a consistent answer to, like each item has a unique circumstance, as you outlined.
So I don't have an answer for that particular item, nor necessarily any of the rest of them, because I don't know what it involves.
Yeah.
If it just involves making a request, I'll participate in that. But if it's a subcommittee, I'm going to need to, maybe take more time to consider what the item is and how much research is going to go into it. And I think that's part of a discussion I would have with you all.
Yeah.
And to hear your contributions to those things. So I'm sorry that at this time, I don't really have much to say about where I would recommend.
I would say,
Interesting.
you bring up an interesting point in the R15 zero lot line variance
Yeah.
code cleanup. I feel like it's only on the list because we had already had a collective agreement that it
Yes.
should be changed, not to be a variance.
Right.
So I don't see that item requiring any further work by the
No.
commissioner, other than to
Agreed.
say, when staff has the budget and the time to
And,
focus on it,
to be honest,
they
I
will
don't
come back
understand
as-
why we just don't do that tonight and move on, and let's get that off of our work plan.
Yeah.
I think we could even
To be honest,
clear
I-
that from our list
No
in
offense
this
to the process.
discussion.
Again, I don't
Well,
understand the process.
Hang on. There were other things in the ordinance. There was lots of discussions over slope of where the measurement of height was. There was a whole
But Bob,
person
that's
that had the
all code cleanup.
stairs.
That's all, that omnibus, there's a separate item. So we created two items. One was R15 zero lot line variance. And then there's a whole nother item, which was omnibus code cleanup.
Right.
Which would include how you calculate the slope at the top of a hill or a street on the east side. So I'm not discounting
Yeah.
that there is other things that may require discussion by a subcommittee or as a whole group. I think we
Right.
could have one evening where we just said, we're all going to bring our list to the table.
Right.
Because I don't think our role is to come back to the staff with the solution, like, here's how you
it's
should
the
write this
issues.
code.
Yeah.
Here are the issues that we've seen repeatedly and we'd like you to address. Slopes, CPP,
Right.
CPP may be an example where we've already expressed that I think it's only on the list because we feel like they should be done within a certain time frame from when a design was changed or presented.
Yeah, that's right. And I talked about distance, and I was
So
gonna use-
maybe there's a simple meeting in which we had put that on the agenda and we say more explicitly to the staff.
Sure.
Our issue with CPP is this, the timing of it and
A, B, C, D, E,
A, B,
F.
C, D, E, F.
Right. And that's
And
great.
then we're done. And
Yeah,
there's no
that doesn't
subcommittee.
require a subcommittee
No
to do that.
subcommittee
Exactly.
required.
However, the open space may be a much different scenario.
Maybe.
Where we would want to bring a little more information, that might want to be presented to us.
Other cities are
and that
doing
might
certain
help
things, yeah.
guide what we need to do with that
Right.
particular item, because
Right.
it's such a broad thing.
Right.
So,
I get it. I think there's certain things that I think it's a good point.
so I would select things on the work plan that can be resolved quickly. And I would sort them out and just let's make a couple of, in the next few meetings, a couple of requests and see if we can't knock them off our plan.
So what if we made a motion tonight to say, we would like to put on the agenda for a future planning commission meeting, depending on availability, but the next one or the following, to discuss the R15 zero lot line variance and the omnibus code cleanup. And your homework, or our homework as a commission, would be to show up to that meeting ready to say, here are the 5 code items that we think need cleaning up. Here's our collective position on the zero lot line thing.
I would support that.
Okay. And then that would be.
And even so, it's discussion, recommendation, and then it just goes from us. But we're not actually changing code.
Yes, we should absolutely not be coming here with a new code language saying, this is what you need to do.
No, I think it's identifying, to your point, we've had a bunch of meetings, there's been things that have consistently popped up, and those just need to be addressed. And I think you're right, everybody can come armed with 2, 3, 5, 7, whatever they want to bring to the meeting. And I guess from a presentation standpoint, we can't share those with everybody, right? Those have to be.
Well, this is, I presume, and I can be corrected in any moment, this is being generated by the commission, so there's not a staff report that's being given to you.
No, I'm just
So we
saying,
would come-
I can't talk to more than one person in the commission about my 5. Is that correct?
Right, like, the same
Just like
rules, like
everything.
there can't be kind of a running quorum where you
Correct.
talk to one
Okay.
and then the next and the next and the next.
I'm just going to bring my 5 and we'll talk about
A
it.
serial meeting.
Serial meeting.
But it wouldn't, well,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then we can
enough
certainly follow that up with, addressing the CCP meeting item following that. And then, we can just
Yeah.
chain
Keep
them
going.
along. Once
Okay.
we've resolved
So-
those things, then we can move on to the next one and pick another one
So
on.
my motion on the table would be to address the 0 lot line in Cardiff, because I think it could be done in about 5 seconds, and the omnibus code cleanup.
I'll second
And
that.
any more than that, I think would go too lengthy a discussion, because I think omnibus.
That's a big
code
one.
is gonna be
There's probably a
big
few
one.
that it's
We're
going
not taking a vote, but I support that.
Okay,
Excuse me.
so I have a motion on the table.
We're not taking
Or
a
we don't
vote.
need to. I mean, if
We're
there's
not
just
voting,
consensus
but
and-
Second,
it's
Okay.
consensus, and I would
Okay,
support
so there's a
that.
consensus to that, or there's a second, and we could vote. But I think, is that enough direction to you, Megan, to say on the agenda that it will fit on the soonest? I don't know the upcoming calendar. We'd like to discuss those 2 topics.
I think we should put it on our calendar for the next meeting, and we can just move it along. If we can't address it
We can
that night.
continue it to
We can
another-
continue it, or we can just do whatever we want to. It's not a voting item.
Okay?
It's something we can just address then.
Okay, so I agree with you on that. And then,
that okay?
as we move forward as a commission.
Certainly don't want to make decisions without. So,
I can
input.
certainly add the agendized item to discuss from the work plan, the 0 lot line variance discussion from the Cardiff Twin Home, as well as the omnibus code cleanup. And then should you find that the agenda feels like there's a number of items that maybe would take more time, when you want to allocate more time to this, you can certainly continue that to the next meeting.
Okay. I also heard tonight 2 people coalesce around the open space, I don't know, the preservation of open space. Would we want to make an agenda item for the next meeting to form a subcommittee on that topic?
I would support, moving forward with the subcommittee, and they work at their pace.
Yeah,
As we did before.
okay. That topic seems broader than as we just outlined the other
I
two
don't have
might be.
enough experience to show me otherwise, but I appreciated how it went last time, and if that's how it went last time, I support that.
All right, so
again.
yeah, it'd be great to establish the committee on the open space. And I'd put, if
I
we're
mean, it
establishing.
does seem like it needs more work. Unless we just.
No, it's not as cut and dry, it's not as binary as a
I
code.
cannot find a reason to not, develop the subcommittee, and if the first thing that comes out of their mouth is we need more information from the city, then we deal with it when we can.
Sure.
And then propose that they deal with it when they can.
Okay. And then I would do the same on the dark skies. Agendize it as a subcommittee item, and we can take a vote on to establish one or not.
I'm fair
And now
with
that
that.
I know that it can be a committee of 1, that's at least me. At least it's on the agenda, and we don't have to wait another month to do that.
Fair enough. Megan, is that clear to you?
Yes, let me just summarize, though, to ensure that I captured everything. So it's to first bring back an agenda item related to the work plan to address the 0 lot line variance, as well as the omnibus code cleanup, where the Planning Commission would provide priorities on said cleanup, and then separately to bring another item to form a subcommittee related to the open space work plan item, as well as the dark skies ordinance.
That's my understanding.
Certainly, Megan, we do respect your time and the city staff's time. If we come back at that next meeting and you needed more time, just bring that back to the meeting. That would be totally sufficient for me. I mean, it's totally acceptable. And like vice versa, if we feel like it's not something we can deal with, we'll talk to you about it.
As I understand it right now, the only time commitment Megan has is to type this into the agenda and notice it to the public. And then her time that she sits here with that evening, listening to our conversation, right? She's not coming with us.
I'm assuming since we have the modify the municipal code on that particular item, we're going to get some information about how it can be modified?
Well, I think we're going to come back and say, here are the topics that we think to be changed.
Uh-huh.
We
But
don't know
on
how
but that
we-
particular one, we know the topic.
We know the topic. Then she might have time where she's going to have to spend time to come back and say, I can't change that without a vote of the people. Like, whatever reason she
Oh, okay.
can or can't do something, she will alert us, maybe even at that time that night.
Okay.
But I think it's on us for this first shot to come with our list.
And for that particular item, though,
For
we're
that
going to look,
item.
we're going to look at the language ourselves. We're going to come to some determination,
Yeah,
discuss at the meeting our experience with it,
yeah,
how it plays out, and then go from there.
right.
Gotcha. Okay.
I would like to take a moment to note that last time we had work plan details, Commissioner Sherrod and I did a lot of work, and for some reason or another, City Council has chosen either not to hear the presentation of the work plan or not to have it agendized, which is clearly very disappointing. A lot of effort went into it. There were some nuggets that probably could be pulled from it. It was long, it was detailed. Not everything is applicable. But I do think that the citizens should have had a chance to at least heard the results of the work plan. And I would hope that council going forward with the extra efforts being done here tonight and in the future would provide a little more respect to the subcommittees who then have their work approved by and noticed by the commission to go to city council. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment, and I would second that sentiment. I think we've exhausted this topic for the night. Okay. With that, I'm going to move on to agenda item, future agenda items added by planning commissioners. I think we kind of just did that. Was there any other topic that was going to be added? Okay. Item 10 is Planning Commission reports. This is not so much a Planning Commission report, but I will share that I was at the San Diego Housing Federation conference today in downtown, and to your credit, the subcommittee, Susan and Bob, they were talking about, they didn't call it cluster housing, but it was cottage housing. And it was a topic or a subject that seemed very similar to what you were proposing in your report. So take some solace that there are other people also in the state thinking in those terms, and they had a good example of a project up in Seattle area, I believe it was, the Northwest. So, okay, with that, I'll move on to item 11, secretary reports.
No reports.
Okay. And so I will adjourn the meeting until the next regular Planning Commission meeting on November 6th. And before that, I will see you all at this special joint meeting with the City Council on October 29th,
Yes, that's
I
correct.
believe. And with that, we're adjourned.